On today's video, I am talking about nerves. So whether you're preparing for a big speaking engagement or any kind of performance in public, the chances are you will feel nervous. You might even feel nervous at the thought of it. You're not even there yet. But what I want to tell you today is nerves are not the enemy. They're not bad. They're not wrong. And you don't want to get rid of them. So I want to share today about the sweet spot of nerves. We don't want them so much that they cripple and debilitate us, but we can use them to empower and enhance our performance. And that's what I want to share with you today. I'm a performer as well as a voice coach and Jungian depth coach. So what I'm going to share with you today is things that I have done over the years because I've sung in front of tens of thousands of people. I've definitely had my fair share of feeling like my heart's going to come out of my chest. My legs are shaking, my hands are shaking. So I know what it's like and I know how terrifying it can feel, but you don't want to let it stop you. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. If you're interested in finding more about my work, this deeper approach to the voice, then please do check out the links below. I've got a couple of online courses through to you can book a one-off 1-hour session. And if you really want that deep, lasting transformation, then consider working with me for my 8-month program, Speak with Impact. But all the links are below. So when I'm working with clients and they're preparing for some kind of event, speaking engagement, performance, often one of the questions they'll ask me is, how can I not feel nervous? How can I get rid of my nerves? And I always say the same thing, that is not the right question, because you want to embrace the nerves, not push them away. And if you've watched any of my other videos, my whole psychological approach behind my coaching is based on the work of Swiss psychoanalyst Carl Jung. And one of his famous quotes is, "What we resist persists." So the last thing you want to do is resist the nerves because you're going to give them more energy. And actually, what I want to share with you first of all is what sort of happens to us when we are preparing to go on stage and speak or sing, and why we want to sort of relabel that energy in a more helpful and positive light. So first of all, when you're preparing to go on stage, and whether it's an actual stage or a metaphorical stage, or you're just speaking in front of a group of people, this could be days, weeks, or months in advance, or it could be right before, but there's almost an anticipatory response. So we feel this anxiety even before we're even in the situation. This is, again, very, very normal. And what happens in this situation is our heart rate increases because we're anticipating the event. Our brain sends a signal to our nervous system to prepare us. So as I say, you may well feel this when you think about the event, even if it's weeks or months in advance, but you will most certainly feel this in the hours or minutes before the event. And this is very, very normal. And I feel it too. And so what happens then is our sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response, gets activated. And this is when stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol get flooded into our system. And this is when our heart rate and our blood pressure increases. And this is really preparing the body for action, because if you were being chased by a lion, you need that blood flow to your muscles so you can run away. You need that hyper focus so you can focus on, okay, I need to climb up that tree, or I need to run over there, or do this or do that. So it's very, very clever that the body has this set up this way. It just doesn't differentiate between us being chased by a lion and speaking on a stage. So it's not only preparing the muscles, but it's also bringing more oxygen into the body, into the brain, so we can be more focused, so we can think more clearly, and we can take action. We've got more energy to respond to the situation. So as I said, you might feel this in the days, weeks, or months leading up, depending on the size of the event, but you will definitely be feeling this in the hours, minutes before. Now, what's also really interesting is when you then get into the situation, into the meeting room, onto the stage, whatever that stage is, literal or metaphorical, that heart rate stays elevated. And there's that kind of on-stage rush when you first go on stage. Again, very, very normal. And so there's this surge of adrenaline that we feel. And then what you'll find normally is as your body settles, as you start to calm and you realize that you're not going to be eaten alive by a tiger or a lion, the nervous system starts to calm down. However, there will still be an elevated response of the nervous system. It's not going to go back to total normality. So I just want to share that because this is really, really normal. We all experience this. It's just the difference between the people that you see speak on stage and look like they've got it all together and the people that look like a nervous wreck. They've just learned to channel this energy so it doesn't cripple them, so it doesn't debilitate them. And this is what I have had to learn myself as well, because I knew if I wanted to do the work I want to do in the world and sing on stage, then I had to do something about nerves. I had to do something about performance anxiety. And actually, what I did personally when I first started doing professional shows, which was about 10 years ago now, was I actually worked with a performance coach specifically on this. And I'm going to share some of the things at the end that he taught me that really, really were a game changer. So just remember that standing on stage, singing, speaking, whatever you're doing, it's unfamiliar. It's almost like the risk of social death. And that's why it triggers this response. So to the ego, to the mind, the risk of social death is almost the same as the risk of physical death. That's why we almost have the same feelings as if someone's chasing us down the street with a knife or a gun. That feeling of elevated blood pressure and heart rate is the same for some people as standing on a stage in front of hundreds or thousands of people. Because from the ego's perspective, it's all death. It's all a risk of death, whether it's physical or social. But of course, from an evolutionary perspective, if we died socially and we were outcast by our group, then it was a surefire death sentence, an actual physical death sentence. So that's why to the mind, they are sort of one of the same. So we don't want to try and rationalize and wrangle with the mind because we'll be there forever. The ego will always win this battle because its job is to keep you safe, to help you survive. So what we want to do is recognizing that this is the response, is to work with it and use it. So of course, the more you do public speaking, the more you put yourself out there in situations and stand on different stages and speak in front of different audiences, the more your nervous system starts to normalize this. If you only speak once in a blue moon, you're probably going to be dealing with much more nervous energy than someone that speaks regularly. So yes, you do want to try and speak as often as you can. Take opportunities. If you see that speaking in public is really important for you in your business or career, because it will settle your nervous system more. That's not to say you won't feel anxious. I definitely feel anxious before I go on stage and sing, even though I've done it thousands of times. But your body gets back into some kind of normality quicker. And the highs and the lows aren't so profound. So you're not sort of dealing with such extreme anxiety or nerves before you go on stage. So I just want to share now more about this sweet spot for nerves, because as I said at the start, we want nerves. They're not bad, they're not wrong. We don't want to get rid of them, but there is a sweet spot. So we need enough, but not too much. Like most things in life, there's a balance to pretty much everything, and the body is always trying to get us back into balance. The mind is also trying to get us back into balance. So I want to share something now by two psychologists who developed Yerkes-Dodson law. So you'll see now the image on the screen, and I'm just going to briefly talk about this so you get some idea of why you want nerves and why they're not bad. And then we're going to talk about some of the things that you can do. Robert Yerkes and John Dillingham Dodson proposed this in 1908, that there's an optimal level of arousal for performance. So they proposed that if there's not enough nervous energy, if we're too relaxed, if we're too nonchalant about what we're doing, then we're not going to perform at our best. And it's almost as bad as having too many nerves. So low arousal, low performance. This is where you might feel bored, unmotivated, apathetic, disengaged, there's no energy, you don't really want to be there, you can't really be bothered. It's that kind of energy, or you're just going through the motions. It's like you're almost like robotic, going through the motions. There's no vibrancy, there's no life, there's no energy. And this is 100% going to be reflected in your voice, of course. The other side of the coin is the high arousal and low performance. So this is where the nerves become debilitating and you might go into a place of panic and severe anxiety. And the stress overwhelms the system to the point where you can't focus anymore, you can't think straight, you're making errors, you are forgetting what you're talking about, your memory, you've just forgotten everything that you learned. There's no clarity. And again, you're not going to deliver at your best because you're completely in your head now. So, what we want is somewhere between the two. So, there's a moderate level of stress that will enhance the performance. So it's not so much that you can't function, but it's not so little that you can't be bothered. There is this moderate level of nerves and stress on the system. Now, this is going to depend on you and the activity you're doing. So it's not going to look the same for everything that you do. Just start to notice when you are going out there and performing and speaking where this sweet spot might be for you. Because when you find this sweet spot, this is where you're going to have the most energy. You're going to be alive. You're going to be very present. You're going to have sharpened senses and you're going to be alert and focused. So that's how you know you are very, very present, very alive, very sharp and switched on stage, but you're not distracted. You're very in the moment. And this is what we call the flow state. So we're channeling that quote unquote nervous energy now into something that's really enhancing, elevating our performance and creating this focus, this presence, and this aliveness within us. So start to pay attention to this in yourself because, as I say, it's going to be different for every person and it's going to be different depending on what you're doing. So I want to share something now that you can do to prepare because some of the common advice is things that I might also share. But the problem with the common advice, it's still coming from this idea that we're trying to get rid of the nerves. So that we want to calm the nervous system to get rid of the nerves. And I'm not saying we don't want to calm the nervous system. I'm just saying that the underlying message here is that we're trying to get rid of the nerves. So one of the things often people say, and I will say this too, in the right context, is breathing. Really important to calm the nervous system. And particularly box breathing. So breathing in through the nose, count to 4, hold the breath gently for 4, exhale for 4 through the mouth, hold for 4. And just do a few cycles of that. Just make sure you're breathing as deeply as possible. So put your hands on your belly, drop into the body, allow the jaw to soften, the shoulders to soften, and do a few rounds of this. So you could do this literally while you're waiting to go on stage and speak or sing or whatever it is you're doing. So that's great. But again, as I said, the idea is we're trying to get rid of the nerves. So do definitely focus on your breath. So that's one thing. The other thing I've talked about as well many times is visualization. Again, this is something you want to do in advance, not wait till 30 seconds before you're about to go on stage, but visualize yourself in that scenario. See yourself speaking, singing, talking, pitching, whatever it is you're doing. See yourself in that place of confidence and presence and ease. And hear yourself speaking, really visualize what you would be wearing and the room and the people and how they're responding. The more real you can make it, the better, because the mind doesn't know the difference between what we imagine and our quote unquote reality. So the more you can do this in advance, I promise you, the better it will be. Now, I do this all the time. I'm preparing for a big show in November. I'm already visualizing myself on that stage, seeing the people around me. I know what I'm wearing. I know who's in my band. I know how it's going to look. So I've already got a very clear image in my mind of what that's going to look like and how I want to feel on the stage. So I realize it's not always going to be possible to do this if it's a last minute speaking engagement that you have. But if you can, just try and practice visualizing yourself, feeling relaxed, feeling calm when you speak. But this is what I want to share as the last thing and something that really, really helped me. So when I was working with the performance coach, this was, I said, about 10 years ago, and it was life-changing for me because this was before also I discovered the Jungian psychology work that I now use in my coaching. But one of the things he got me to do is to work with the nerves. And rather than, as I say, trying to get rid of them, which doesn't work anyway because you give them more energy, he said, right, When you're practicing, I want you to deliberately get your heart rate up. So, what I would do when I went for these sessions, which was actually at Melbourne University, he would get me to run up and down the stairs and then sing. He'd get me to do star jumps. He'd get me to run on the spot. He'd get my heart rate up in whatever way we could. So, if there were stairs, run up and down the stairs. If there weren't, do some jogging on the spot, some star jumps, do whatever I could to get my heart rate up. And then he got me to sing. Because then you are in a more real situation now having to work with the elevated heart rate. Because the problem often with the advice given for preparation is that you're preparing when you're feeling more calm, more relaxed, it's quiet, it doesn't, you've got no one listening to you, it doesn't matter if you mess up, you're actually in a relatively calm, easeful state. So here we're getting ourselves more into the state of how we might feel in a situation where we're feeling nervous. And as I mentioned already, one of the big things about nerves and adrenaline being released into the body is our heart rate increases. And that can throw havoc into our system, into our voice, into our body, because now we do have to learn to breathe deeply. It's easy to breathe deeply when we're all calm and relaxed and in meditation, but can you breathe deeply when you're under stress? That's the challenge. So we want to simulate the situation as much as possible. It's obviously not going to be the same, but this really, really helped me so much. So as part of my training, as well as practicing when I was in a calm state, I would get my heart rate up and then speak and then sing and see if I could learn to manage and calm my breath, calm my body, calm my mind. The other thing I would recommend as well, doing simultaneously, if you want to make it really difficult for yourself, is we tend to practice when no one's listening to us, when it's quiet, when it's calm. We go and take ourselves away to a part of the house and no one's going to listen to us. What I want you to do is actually distract yourself. So obviously you don't do this as the first part of your training and your practice. So make sure you're kind of fairly comfortable with your content and what you're going to be talking about. But then I want you to put yourself into a situation where there's lots of distractions. So if you are by yourself at home, maybe put the TV on, the radio on, have the washing machine going, open the windows, have as much noise and potential distraction as possible. If you've got kids at home, allow them to run in and out. I know this seems like really mad, but you need to be able to learn to handle distractions, busyness, chaos, and noise. If you can only speak and deliver your presentation or your performance when the stars and moon are in alignment and you're feeling relaxed and it's calm and it's quiet and you've had time to meditate, that's a very, very limiting place to be. And you're going to feel more nervous because now everything has to be perfect for you to feel more relaxed. And I can tell you from years of doing this myself, there is always something that goes wrong, always. And it's never the thing that you're expecting. So you want to train yourself for chaos, for busyness, for noise, for things going wrong as much as possible. Because then whatever happens, it's not going to throw you. Otherwise, it's all going to have to be perfect. Otherwise, you're going to fall in a heap. And it's not going to be perfect in that sense. The final thing I just want to leave you with as well, which I have given as advice to my clients, but also advice that I use myself, is if you do find yourself in a situation where things are quote unquote going wrong, make light of it, make a joke of it, if it's kind of obvious. Because what we tend to do is we feel embarrassed, this shouldn't be happening, I shouldn't feel this should be working. But let's make a joke about it. Let's just say to the audience, well, this wasn't meant to be happening. Let's talk about it. Let's not have the elephant in the room. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Because actually the audience will relate to us more because we're being vulnerable. We're connecting. We're being honest. We're not pretending everything's great and ignoring the fact that a piece of scenery's fallen down behind us. We're actually acknowledging it. And then we bring them along with us because they see that we're human. And we're not just a robot going through the motions. So they are my 3 pieces of advice. Yes, definitely you want to practice deep breathing. You need that for speech anyway. Singing, you need that for all voice use. Yes, it's going to help you calm your nervous system. But as I said, you want to learn to work with nerves. And part of that is the elevated heart rate. Part of that is often there's chaos, there's noise, there's distractions. So bring that into your practice. And I promise you, you will feel more confident, more empowered, that no matter what happens, you will deliver an outstanding speech performance, fill in the blank. But if you need some help with this, please do schedule a 1 hour session. I would love to help you. If you've got an upcoming presentation or pitch or any kind of speech, I'd love to help you. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on next week's video.